right, there we go. Welcome everyone.
Hi,
Amazing.
everyone.
Everyone's joining in. I love it. I love it. Hey, just as we join, we've got more people joining too. Just pop in the chat where you are in the world and what you do creatively. Right, we are in the world and what you do creatively. If you can have video on, that's fantastic. We love being able to see people. You will note that you are muted. Obviously, Vera and I will be leading things today, but there will be opportunities in the chat to interact as well. So we love a lively chat, which is great. But just as we get underway, just popping into the chat, yeah, where you are in the world and what you do creatively. Where are you right now, Vera?
I am actually in Serbia. I am with my family. I'm originally from Serbia. I was born here and spending the summer here. Yeah,
Amazing. I love that. And for once, Vera, we're in the same time zone, which does not happen very often. But
it doesn't.
I'm in Switzerland right now, so it's actually 7 p.m. for both Vera and I right now. I spend a lot of time in the States. Vera spends a lot of time home in Canada, but
Yep.
we also both do travel around a little bit as well. So there we go. We're in the same time zone, which is super lovely.
It is.
I love
Yes.
that. So, look, those of you that have joined us, yeah, pop in the chat. We are in the world, what you do creatively. We have an action-packed webinar for today. I'm super excited. I know we've got lots of people that are going to be watching this that couldn't make it live as well. So I think we should get into it. So
Yeah.
over to you, Vera.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Logan. And thanks everybody who is joining us here today. This is going to be an awesome webinar because we're going to be sharing super important and valuable tips about business hacks and how to spend your time smartly and how to make time for what's important. And in my case, it's creativity for sure. And we are going to be also sharing some actionable steps with you. So you're going to learn a lot. And also you're going to have an opportunity to ask us questions at the end of the webinar, and we're going to be trying to answer as many as we can. But if we don't, in case we don't get to yours, we are always available after the webinar via email or DM on Instagram, and we're going to try to answer everything and tell you everything that you want to know. But before we begin, I just wanted to do a quick intro of myself in case you don't know me. My name is Vera Drmanovski, and I'm a lettering artist and illustrator based in Montreal, Canada. And I have been a freelancer for about 2.5 years now. My passion is around books and anything bookish. And I had an opportunity to work with a lot of clients from the publishing world, such as Penguin Random House, Bookish Box, Owlcrate, Audible UK, Fake Rate, and so many other North American and European publishers. I have spread my wings lately in Europe as well, and I'm very happy about that. I have also been drawn to very intricate and detailed maximalistic visual style, and I've worked for many years to perfect it because I wanted to show off my skills, and also in hope that it's going to land me the kind of projects I really wanted to work on. And during those days, it was really important for me to carve out time to make that work that I wanted to eventually get hired for. And for that, I needed to, as I was doing my full-time job and later on, even with freelancing, I really needed to get my productivity skills on a higher level. And that was very, it was a struggle in the beginning. I have to be honest with you. And it wasn't really until I started working with Logan and we started to talk about, what my goals are in business and how I want to achieve it. And we started to, look into where do I spend my time? How do I make time for those personal projects that are going to get me those clients? And also, what are my biggest time wasters? I never really realized I have so much time actually during the day that I was spending on not as important stuff as what it was for me to do creatively. So after we did that, it really, I started to see a huge shift in my business, and I started to land the projects that I really wanted to. Even recently, I have started a huge personal project where I was like illustrating quotes from books. And that project has honestly landed me so many commission projects to date that I have already hit all my monetary goals for the year and also the number of projects that I wanted to achieve this year. So without being modest, I honestly owe that all to Logan and his team, because they helped me make my organizational skills better and find the time to do what is going to eventually make my business grow. So who is Logan? Logan is my business coach and also a business coach of many, many creative people in the industry. And he's probably the most famous creative coach in the creative industry. And honestly, without being modest. And being a creative person himself, what was really important for me when I was picking who is going to be my coach, I really needed someone who is going to understand the nature of a creative business, but as well the nature of creative people, because I do believe we are a specific breed, and also we need someone who understands how to help us succeed in the business world, because we are romantics, right? We're dreamers, and we needed someone who is going to actually show us how to be successful business people. Logan has completed an entrepreneurship. This one is always a tongue twister for me. Entrepreneurship master's, and started and grew his creative business for 11 years. And he has learned a lot, like during those years, the good and the bad, so to speak. And he knows, that's why he understands where, like, how to help us creatives grow our businesses. He also has worked with universities and creative programs all around the world, helping creatives grow their businesses and start and grow their businesses. And also, as far as I know, he has worked with hundreds of graphic designers, if not more these days. And because I know Logan for quite a few years now, right? So, he has worked throughout North America, Europe, helping people leave their day jobs and finally start the business of their dreams. Including myself, he has helped me grow my monthly income from 1K to 5K, and hopefully one day also, more than that. But I also know some people who are making now 25K and probably up beyond. So I'm there. I'm getting there, Logan. So yes, and I just wanted to mention before I, give Logan the microphone, I just wanted to mention that after the webinar, Logan will be giving 3 free calls, but all you have to do is just fill in the survey, and that survey is, we're going to send you the link to the survey, so make sure you fill it out. And honestly, that's how I met Logan. I filled out the survey, I won, and here we are today. So without further ado, Logan, microphone to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vera. It's so funny. Every time I hear someone say oh, Logan had his own creative business for 11 years, I'm like, oh yeah, wow, 11 years. It was a very long time. And sometimes people are like, you don't look, you look relatively young. And I'm like, well, there's been a lot of adventures, a lot of years there as well. So look, my just kind of add a couple of things there. As Vera mentioned, yes, I had my own creative business for a long time. The accent, those of you that don't know me, is from New Zealand. So some people are like, where's that accent from, Logan? So I'm originally from New Zealand. Most of the clients we work with are throughout North America, US, Canada, and some in Europe as well. Now, yes, creative people are who we work with. That's primarily visual creative. So it's generally people who are illustrators, graphic designers, web designers. Work with a lot of people in creative spaces, but it's all visual. So, that's something where we love working with people at different stages. We do work with people who are really early stage, trying to really get things moving, maybe trying to leave their day job. We work with people who have left the day job. They're focusing on this full time, but they really want to get more stability, maybe expand what they're doing and actually increase their revenue. We also do occasionally work with people that have been in business for a very long time as well, sometimes even 10 or 20 years. And often their priorities are to, yes, pivot their income, do things slightly differently, maybe not quite work as much, but still make the revenue as well. So lots of stuff there. As Vera did mention, we are going to be doing that giveaway. So we'll be giving 3 freebie 30-minute calls away to me. And also we've got Paul here from the team who's on the call as well. Paul will be getting on some extra calls beyond those as well. So look, I heavily encourage you to fill this in. I'm going to pop that in the link. Honestly, it's a survey that people just love filling in. They get a lot out of it anyway, even if they don't end up getting on a call. But I would really encourage you to do that, because I love connecting with a bunch of you. Paul would love to connect with even more of you as well. So do check that out, and we'll make sure we send that through, in those of you watching the recording as well, and the links there too. So we have lots to talk about today, because we're going to be talking about the stuff around efficiency and effectiveness, but ultimately it's really about making time, right? Making time for the important stuff. Now, the thing is, we are all given the same amount of time every single day, right? That's something that everyone in the world has the same amount of time each day. And one of the big things that we see with people that we start working with is that they're saying, hey, there's not enough time, right? I feel overwhelmed. There's a big list of stuff to do. And everyone we work with has a lot of priorities, right? We're not just talking about the business priorities. We're talking about life priorities, right? Some people have families they're looking after, sometimes young children, or sometimes they're caring for other family members. People who sometimes have partial full-time day jobs. They're trying to balance moving their business forward. They're also trying to balance wellness and mindset and friends and family, right? There's all these commitments as well. So that's where, Vera and I thought, actually, let's do a webinar around making time for this important stuff, because I know this has also been a big part of Vera's journey, as she's mentioned as well. So we're going to be diving into some things, and we're going to be getting Vera to reflect on some of these things as well from her journey too, because ultimately, yes, great to learn from me and hear about these things, but also to be able to hear from Vera, who is deep in the trenches of her own business, growing it, working through the different challenges. I know Vera has a lot on her plate right now as well. So we'll be diving into some of that. As we said, we will have time for questions at the end as well. So there will be some time if you've got some questions that pop up, particularly around these kind of productivity type things. We'll be able to jump into them. Okay, so look, the first thing we're going to be covering and talking about is creating boundaries for work. Right, I kind of love this one, because it's really about understanding that, yes, there's going to be a lot of stuff you need to get done. There's also going to be a lot of distractions that get in your way, right? And some of these are good distractions, some of these are frustrating distractions, right? So in the end, when you have your own business, you actually get to decide how you work. Now, what I mean by that is, like, you get to decide where you work, what time you work, what you wear when you work. Like, you get to decide all these things. There's not like a boss who's like, right, you have to wear this and you have to work at this time and you have to work from this office, or you have to work from home, or whatever that looks like, right? You actually get to decide. You are your own boss. Now, that's really awesome, right? Amazing flexibility, freedom. It can also come with challenges, because you just suddenly have to figure this stuff out yourself. You sometimes want someone to be like, where to work, when to work, right? So when you have your own business, it's actually sometimes a really good idea to make sure you're creating those clear boundaries of work for yourself. Right? You get to decide them, but you still should have those boundaries. And one of the things I say is, it's actually sometimes a good idea to kind of treat it like it is a job, right? Kind of treat it like it is a day job. When I say that, I mean, like, have fixed times of work, right? And be like, okay, I'm going to work from this time to this time. You could change it. You could be flexible. It could be different week to week. It could be different day to day. That's totally fine. But you should have a plan, because sometimes what can happen is you just end up working all the time, right? You're just like, oh, I can work whenever I want. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I'm up till midnight every night working, right? And actually, we've got to make sure we're making time for living life and those things as well. So, some other things that we do recommend you think about is, where do you work? Right. So actually, yeah, thinking about, can you have a comfortable chair? Do you have a specific workspace you can work from? Right. Even if like Vera and myself, we're away at the moment, but actually we're both still making sure we're making time for work and we have spaces to work from. Right. So, we try and recommend to people, try and have as a different place where you can work compared to where you would relax or eat your lunch or hang out. Right. Because this is where creating that space for work also means you need to create a space to actually go and get into your work zone, your work mode as well. I do talk about like what you wear, right? Like, I think there's a fun thing about this whole like work from home culture, which is like, you can wear whatever you want and you can work in your pajamas and you can, do whatever you want. It's like, this is true. But if you're wearing like your yoga pants and your your loose clothes, you might also feel like doing yoga and feel like relaxing rather than feel like getting into work. So I kind of think about, the work outfit as like a superhero costume. It's like when we become these superheroes in our work, it's like we can have those outfits, right? You still get to decide what they are, of course. And I'm not saying that it's because you're on calls like us right now. Well, it might even be that no one's going to see you that. Well, you can still get into your work uniform and get into that. And these are part of creating those boundaries and actually making time. Part of it is getting into the mode of work as well. One other thing I'll talk about is around what I call the after hours. So, sometimes it's really important to make clear boundaries with those people around us, right? We all get this. We all have friends or partners, family who love us, and right, we're working from home. They might think, oh, they're not working, and they kind of, oh, can you do this here? And like, should we go do this here? And you're like, well, I'm kind of working right now. You can end up almost being a bit rude to them, right? But actually, creating those clear boundaries with them and saying, hey, I'm going to be working from this time to this time. Let's do lunch together, or hey, I'm going to be taking breaks and those things there. But really helping them understand when you're working and when you're also not working as well. Just a bit of a fun trick. We talk about headphones. Like headphones are just such a great signal of like, I'm working, I'm busy, right? And I sometimes even think, some clients even have like big headphones because they're like, well, they don't need these big headphones, but it's a very clear signal to friends, family, those around you that you're working. Some people wear headphones and they're not listening to anything, right? It's just a signal, right? So having things like this can be a signal to those around you as well. So I know lots of stuff on this topic, but Vera, would love to kind of hear some of your experiences and things around, the boundaries of work as well.
Yes, that was definitely in the beginning, especially when my husband also started working from home. It was kind of like, and being at home all the time, like it was really a challenge in the beginning. And I felt like there's so much time during my day that it just goes, I don't know where, like literally on the small topics, like what are we going to cook? What are we going to eat? Somehow it always ended up around the food. It's like everything that we talk about is food. But no, it was a challenge. And for me, it was really important to get my own space. So we dedicated a room in our apartment where I literally close the doors, and that's my space. And unless it's opened, he is not to enter. So we agreed, both of us, nicely, no fighting. So I just communicated to him, I need this time to focus. I cannot like expand being interrupted every 5 minutes, even though I'm drawing and it looks like, you don't need a focus, but you actually need a lot of focus when creating like artwork and stuff like that. And also, even now when I'm traveling, I also made sure that here I'm staying at my sister's. So I made sure that I have my own working station. It's right there. I bought myself a desk there and I put it there, and that's mine. She has hers. And so basically, no matter where I am, I kind of like, no, this is my space to work. And when I sit there, everybody knows that, it's time to work. And I'm lucky enough that everybody respects that. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge in the beginning. And it's just all about communication. And as well as like for me, I also needed to get into the routine of going to work as well. That was another thing that took me a while to adapt, so to speak, after I left my day job and started working from home. Because as you said, like I just felt I can work anytime, but that doesn't really help. It really helps to have a clear working hours during the day. And once I set those hours, and as you said, they change depending on the day. Maybe some days I have something in the morning and then I have to do it in the afternoon or something, but I have that flexibility, but still I have working hours, 6 to 8 hours a day when I'm purely focused on my work. And without that, I don't think I would be able to accomplish everything that I have on my plate. So super important to have working hours.
Yeah, I love what you mentioned there around like kind of getting into work mode and like the transition there. And one of the things I sometimes think about is like when people don't have that commute anymore, a lot of people work from home, is like the commute, what it did for a lot of people is it helped them to transition from, being perhaps with family and in that mindset to like being in work mode. And a lot of people don't have that these days. So sometimes it's creating these other rituals, whether it's going into a space, making the coffee or the tea and having those rituals as well to get into that mode, the ritual of putting your work uniform on and those things as well. It's, at the end of my day, I make sure I get out of my work uniform and I go put my yoga pants on and my loose clothes and comfortable clothes, right? Those are those things as well. So I love that. We're going to talk next about working smarter, not harder. Just before we jump into that, I would love everyone who is here online live to post their Instagram into the chat. right? Go and get the URL and post it into the chat. It's a great way to share it with other people on the call right now. Get a few extra connections. Creative connections are always great. Vera and I will also post it. We've got Celeste from my team here is also going to post the flammable one. We'll post it in the chat. Make sure we're following as well. I think there's a few people here that Celeste and myself have been talking to in the DMs as well. So thanks for joining us as well. So really great. Awesome. Thank you. Everyone's popping things into the chat as well. So let's make sure everyone gets following everyone else. This is part of the community element as well. Okay, so as I said, the next thing we're going to do is to go through and talk about working smarter, not harder. Now, Vera knows this very much from the work, with myself and the team, is that I do not like the hustle culture, right? Like just gonna work harder, longer hours, work weekends and those things there. I just don't like it. And part of the reason I don't like it is because I don't think it works. I think it burns people out, it exhausts people, and basically pushes people into this place where they're not running the business of their dreams. They've created another job, right? Where they're just always working, they're overwhelmed, they're not doing the work that they love. So ultimately, it's not about the hours that you spend, it's about how you use those hours, right? Because there's a difference between working 8 hours in a business or 5 hours in business and working 8 hours in business and 5 hours. Some people can get a lot done in that time, some people can't, right? Some people, everyone's busy, but are they actually focused on the things that are moving them towards their goals? Right, so this is a really, really important part of it. And this is something that we work very closely with Vera on too, is goal, right? It's actually getting clear on like, okay, what are the goals? Because part of working smarter is getting clear on what you want and what you're working towards. Because then the task, you can really look at them and go like, this task, this thing that I'm doing, I'm spending hours on it each day or even 20 minutes. Like, is that helping me towards those bigger goals? Right. One of the things I do talk about is this idea of, the puzzle, the 10,000 piece puzzle, right? One of the analogies I love to give is that building a business is like making a puzzle with 10,000 pieces, right? There's a lot of pieces. I guess you would do it on like a garage floor, right? And it's going to take you quite a lot of time. Now, that's kind of like growing a business. There's 10,000 different things that you could be doing, right? And you actually shouldn't be doing all of them at once. You can't do all of them once, but also some of those things you shouldn't be doing right now. You want to focus on the things that are going to move things forward. And part of it is having some strategies in place and being clear on the goals. Right. So with the puzzle, what do? Well, you do the sides first. You maybe pile it into piles of colors, and then you can work on it with a bit more of a strategy. Otherwise, it's probably going to definitely take me years to do a puzzle without any strategy. But suddenly something that maybe was going to take 2 years, you can actually do it in maybe 2 months. You're not quite going to do it in a week. That's fine. It's a big puzzle. But this is a fun analogy because it really says that, you do need to focus on the things that are going to move you towards your goals the fastest, really. So part of that is getting clear on the goals. Most people, even if they say, oh yeah, I have goals, they're not really that clear on what they are. And most people don't have them written down. Right. So this is something that is really important, is get clear on what are the goals in the creative business. What do you want? What are you working towards? The other thing I will just talk briefly about is really around having basically a business model that works for you. Right. So part of working smarter, not harder is like, I sometimes have these conversations with people and they're spending a huge amount of like hours and time trying to make their business work. So they're putting the hours in, they're putting the effort in. But I look at what they're doing and how they're running their business and what they're selling and what the products and services are. And I'm like, look, I don't think you're going to get to your goals, even if you doubled your inputs. And they're like, well, I'm already, working, 60, 80 hours a week sometimes trying to make this thing work. And I'm not really earning the money I want to earn. I can't work any more hours. And I'm kind of saying to them, yeah, I think even if you could work more hours, I don't think you're going to get there. And it's because the business model is wrong. So that's something that we often talk about. We talk a lot with clients. Some of you might have heard me talk about this before, but it's really focusing on the things that are $300 plus, right? 300 euros, could be Canadian dollars, US dollars, right? Everything's relatively close right now. But what we really see is having a focus on those items, those things that you're selling for a higher point, they tend to be services, is what's going to get you to your goals quicker. Right? I talk to a ton of people who are very focused on more of the like passive income type things, right? And passive income can be beautiful if done well, but it doesn't tend to be the thing that's going to get you to those larger goals based on what we've seen. Right. So I often see people who are like, hey, yes, I'm, doing things like print on demand and I'm fully focused on this and putting lots of time in. And I'm like, it doesn't matter how much time you put in. These things are really hard to do because they're really competitive. And also, you've got to sell a lot. Now, I'm not saying don't do them, you can't do them. We have clients that do all sorts of things, whether it's Etsy stores and stickers, and yes, sometimes print on demand, but it's not the thing that's getting them to their larger goal. Right. So it's really recognizing that as well. Sometimes working smarter is what you're working on and what you're trying to do within the business as well. Part of it is learning about productivity and putting some systems in place and thinking about these approaches to work. Something that Vera learned a lot about as well in the program was eating frogs, right? There's a great analogy around like doing the things you don't want to do. We talk about eating the frogs, and frogs are things that you're avoiding, that you don't want to do. They're the hard things. But, pretty much every business is going to have a frog that you have to eat every single week, a thing that you don't want to do, sometimes every single day as well. So, I think that that's an important part of it. It's just really recognizing that just putting more time in and going, I just need to put more hours in, I just need to stay up later at night, or I need to get up earlier, isn't always going to be the answer. There's other pieces of this as well. So I know this is a big puzzle you work on constantly as well, Vera, but would love to hear, some of your thoughts around these things and your experiences too.
Yeah, setting clear goals was one of the biggest thing for me. Once I figured out my business model, because as you said, like before I worked with you, because I was seeing like other people on Instagram and what their like businesses are, or what I thought their businesses are, because you don't really get to see what's behind the curtain. So you're only seeing that front that they're putting up there. So, and I was trying to figure it out. How can I do the same thing? Or, like the shiny object. Oh, look at this person is doing this. Maybe I can do that. And I think I tried to be everywhere and not be anywhere, really. And when we started working together and setting those really smart goals for myself and what my business model should look like everything started to, the fog has been lifted. Like in the path that I needed to take started to become much more clear. And that basically improved my focus onto where should I spend my time. And believe it or not, I made time for other stuff as well. For example, because I am in the book business, and I love to read the books as well. And often I like to read the books that I'm actually designing. So I needed to make time for that, which reading is, a huge, it takes time, right? So I needed to make time and make sure that is something that I incorporate as part of my business, but also as part of my relaxation, because reading is also a relaxation for me. So it's both, and things like that, and everything just started to become one huge enjoyment, and not so much oh, I need to do this, not so much like tasks, works, because I might as well just stay at my day job if I'm going to do the same thing for myself. And the point was to have time for my family, to have time to travel, to have time, to work on projects, on personal projects that I really love and that I think are helping my business, as well as to, do the kind of work and improve my skills constantly to get the kind of work that I really want to do. So goals are super important.
I love that. And, it's part of this here, like almost every client we work with, like some of those big priorities are actually the things outside of work as well. Yes, they want to build a business they're passionate about, they love doing the work, the creative work, and yes, earn the revenue, but it's also about creating time for the other things in life, right? For the wellness, for the relaxation, for the time with family and friends. That's often a big driver for why people want to start their own business as well, is they just want more flexibility and freedom as well. And working 80-hour weeks suddenly, like that's not success. That is not a successful business. That's a business that's just going to overwhelm you as well. And you're going to be wanting your way out. So, this is something that I loved being able to talk about this topic. We're going to talk about where to spend your time. So something Vera shared right at the start is around, hey, you were doing a lot of different things, right? There's a lot of stuff and you were busy. But actually, everyone is really busy. And what we often notice is a lot of people are busy doing the wrong thing, right? And when they start to actually look at, well, what are you actually doing? How are you spending your time? And actually putting it through a lens, you can start going, actually, you know what? There's a bunch of stuff that I do that I just don't need to do. Right. So one of the things we really lean into is some of these ways to review and look at what you are doing and how they fit. So one of the big things is that most people spend most of their time doing what we call urgent tasks. right? It's the stuff that's urgent. Now, it's not always valuable or important, but it's urgent, right? So it could be, notifications on your phone. It could be a message from a friend that you need to reply to. It could be a whole bunch of personal things. It could be distractions, right? Family members distracting us saying, hey, we need to do this, we need to do that. And it feels urgent because it's right there in front of you. Is it important right now? Maybe not. Maybe it could wait. Yes, of course, then there's the stuff that you have to do. It's the urgent stuff. It's the stuff you sometimes left to the last minute. Sometimes it's those frogs. And it's those things, we call them, they're urgent, but they're also really important as well. A lot of people get stuck in a place in their business where they're just doing those things, right? Right. I got this email, I have to deal with this. I've got this client, I have to do this. I've got this work, I have to do this right now. And that there can be quite overwhelming. Ultimately, you need to get to a place where you're actually pretty calm running your business, right? So we often think someone who's running around, kind of doing this, doing that, and busy doing all these things, and they're always busy. But here we think, oh wow, that person's really busy and running a successful business. Well, actually, sometimes we look at it and go, no, it's the people that are calm. They have a plan, they have a system, they have clear work hours, they have things they're working on. They're the ones that are actually moving ahead and they're focused. And when they're not working in the business, they don't need to be working on business. So these are some really good things to think about, is getting to that place of calm in the business is actually a place of success. Now, creating urgency itself is kind of an interesting thing, because there's going to be these tasks in your business that you kind of have to get done that you can avoid, right? Marketing is a classic one, right? Like posting on Instagram, sending cold emails, doing these things here. Like, they're not necessarily urgent. There's no one being like, hey, have you done the thing? Hey, have you done the thing? There's no one being like, have you sent the email? Unless you have worked with a coach, sometimes you will have that accountability. But, part of it here is creating some of that urgency for those things that there is no urgency for. Because it's so easy to say, I'll post on Instagram tomorrow. I will, send this cold email tomorrow. In front of me right now, I have all these urgent things. Part of it is creating that urgency through blocking out time, through having accountability, through coaches and supporters as well, and actually having clear goals, just like Vera said as well, of going, hey, like, yeah, but if I don't do these things, I'm not going to head towards these goals as well. So, there's a lot around this stuff as well, but part of it is making the time to spend on the things that matter towards those goals. Right? Ultimately, it tends to be things like the marketing that you need to create time for. Right? Obviously, everyone here loves the creative side and could probably work 80 hours a week on just the creative side because you're passionate about it. That's great. But ultimately, we want to get more balance, but also we need to make time for the business stuff as well. Vera, would love to hear some of your thoughts around this as well from your experiences.
Yeah, like making time for the important stuff, especially the marketing and the Instagram was always, oh my God, that was my frog every day. Instagram is just like, it took me such a long time to wrap my brain around what I want to post, how I want to post it, when do I post it, are people going to like it, and all the stuff that comes with social media and the pressure. But once I have shifted my mindset around the whole idea of being on Instagram and social media and sharing my stuff, I started to make plans. Like what I did this year specifically, for example, for that, I have a spreadsheet where I plan in advance my stuff, and I know exactly what I'm going to post, when I'm going to post. And I also write the captions in advance, and I carve out time. For example, an hour on Friday afternoon when I'm tired and I have nothing to do. I just carve out an hour to do that and plan for the week ahead. So I think that has helped me a lot with being a lot more consistent with my marketing, as well as it took off that pressure. And as you said, I used to be so frantic, like in my head, at least I don't know how I appeared to others, but in my head, it was like a chaos when just starting to think about marketing and stuff. But then once I put a system in place that has helped me organize my thoughts and then organize my time as well, it has become a lot easier to manage. And I realized that it's really not that hard. And it's just, not everything has to be a process reel that's going to take me, 20 minutes to edit. Sometimes it is just a simple thing that I can post or just an image, but it's very important to, just think of it as a helping tool more than a pressure. And once I shifted that mindset, it just became easier for me to manage that, along with all the projects that I have and the personal projects that I always love to work on and make sure that I have time for those, because for me, at least, those personal projects have always been a way to spread my wings and to show off my skills, and basically my marketing tool. Not the tool, Instagram is the tool, but my marketing stuff, like how I actually promote myself, is through the personal projects that I work on. Yeah.
I love it so much. It's, like that blocking out time and creating that time. What it also means is that, like, Vera is, rather than kind of spending 30 minutes a day and then it becomes a distraction or it takes longer, that's a whole lot of time across the week. Instead, you're going, hey, I'm going to focus on this time here, whether, that's on Friday, or some people do it every day, whatever that looks like. But like getting focused for that time. So many people spend so much time just scrolling on Instagram, right? And it's easy to do, right? These apps, these things are designed to make us scroll, right? So one of the things we need to be aware of is, things like that can be a big time suck. And we've seen it where people are like, oh, I just, it takes so long to do a post, or it takes so long to do the Instagram thing. I'll spend like an hour, and we go like, what are you actually doing in that hour? And what's actually happening is they get sucked into the things like the scrolling as well. So, creating the time and, setting those things are really important. We're going to talk about this fun strategy, and this is kind of one of these like really simple things that a lot of people don't do, but you can easily apply today. I call it the one thing. Basically, the one thing is about the one thing that you should focus on getting done each day. Now, what this does is it helps you to focus on getting the one thing done that's going to move your business forward. And strategy is you do it in the first thing in the morning. So what we recommend is actually create some time in the morning. Maybe it's 20 minutes, it could be 15, it could be 30 minutes for the one thing. And then you go, okay, what's the one thing today that if I don't get anything else done, I'll still be like, I did the one thing and I feel good about it. Now, obviously, you need to do more than one thing per day. But what happens when you do that thing, that one thing, what tends to happen is you feel good, you feel motivated, and you're like, I could get stuff done. And it's going to actually propel you to do the other thing. Now, sometimes that one thing could be the frog, the thing you're avoiding, right? Getting that one thing out of the way. Honestly, that can be amazing because once again, you get it out of the way, but you also feel really good about yourself and your ability to do other things too. One thing I will say about the one thing is that having it focused on those things that are important but not urgent is sometimes a really good trick, because there's always going to be stuff that you have to do each day. It's it's going to get done. Or if you have to reply to an email, if you have to do some client work, like it's probably just going to happen because it's front of mind. But what about posting on Instagram? What about if you are sending cold emails? What about some of those businessy things that are so easy to avoid, and you get to the end of the day and you're like, I'll do that at the end of the day. End of the day comes, we're all busy. We're not very good at planning time sometimes. Oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Actually front loading that can be really important. So it's kind of a simple one around that, but actually making sure you're creating time. Love to hear your thoughts around the one thing as well, Vera. It's a good one.
Well, the one thing has changed my life, honestly. And usually, yes, it kind of like is the same thing as the frog, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes the one thing means, for example, if I'm designing a book, sometimes that one thing is to read 20 pages in the morning, while I'm sipping my coffee. Or sometimes it is to film myself drawing, just like a quick drawing while I'm doodling something in the morning. Then I film that and I post that on Instagram or stuff like that. It is really important to have that one thing every day. And I have actually always, like, I use Asana to plan my days and my time. And then I always have for example, on Sundays, I sit down and put for the whole week the one thing in the morning, what's going to be. So I don't have to think about it every day. Oh, what's my one thing for today? Like, I know in advance what that thing is going to be. And that's, again, just like takes off the pressure of me and sort of like releases my brain cells for something else, something that's more important, right? So it's, again, planning. Everything is about planning, even that.
It's, I love what you said there, Vera, which is like, this has been life-changing for you. Like some of the stuff here is not complicated, but so easy to be like, oh yeah, that's an interesting idea, and maybe I'll do that one day. But like actually applying these things is part of it. Right? And this is what we work with clients on a lot, is yes, the knowledge and the strategy, the approaches, the order of things, but it's also about actually taking action on things, actually putting processes in place. I think, people, us humans, are not very good sometimes at recognizing what we can get done. We're like, one thing each day, like 20 minutes, Logan, 30 minutes. Like, what's that going to do for my business? But if you do that every single day, one of those things that's going to move your business forward, if you do that every day for a month, you're gonna look at the end of the month and go, wow, I did all of these extra things and I got them done, right? What about in 3 months? What about in 6 months? What about in 2 years? If you have these sorts of practices, even if it's not every day, but multiple days a week, this can have a huge impact. And once again, we're talking about creating time because its efficiency comes up. You're focusing on the right things. You're moving your business forward as well. We do have one more thing we're going to be sharing. So we will have some time for questions after this. So if you do have a question, those of you on live, just pop it into the chat and we'll address what we can. We did have some questions sent in beforehand as well. So we'll make sure we dive into them too. But yeah, feel free to pop that in the chat now. And then we'll be diving into our final piece of today's webinar. So I love this one. It's basically talking about like, why does it matter to be a creative professional? Like, why do you have to be a professional? And I think part of it here is recognizing like if you want the creative thing that you do to be a hobby, that's fine. That's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with having a creative hobby. I think it's a really incredible creative thing to have a creative hobby, a visual creative hobby. But if you're going, hey, you know what, like I want to make this a business, I want to take this seriously, part of it is going to be leaning into being a creative profession, right? And recognizing that the business stuff is going to be part of this journey as well, right? If you're like, oh, I don't want to do the business stuff. I just want to create. Well, maybe running your own business is not the thing to do. For most people, there's a fear around that. But actually, when they look at it, they go, you know what? I can figure this stuff out. I can learn. I can get support from programs or coaches, those around me. Ultimately, being a creative professional is so, so important. And there's lots of things that means. So I'm going to talk to you about like why this is important. Firstly, why should you be a creative professional? Well, people want to work with professionals. If people are going to pay you money, they are going to need you to be professional about it, right? So if you are really professional, and I'm going to talk about what types of things matter, well, you'll tend to get repeat clients. You'll actually be able to work with people in the first place. You'll also be able to increase what you charge, right? So the more professional you are, often you can charge higher rates. You can also get referrals. You're also going to find the whole process of working with clients easier. Right? If you have a professional system, a way of working with people, rather than going lots of back and forth with clients, it's going to be much easier and a faster process. And ultimately, you're going to have a happier client, right? Which is what we want. We all want to have happy clients who absolutely loved the work that you did for them. So in terms of what it means to be professional, first of all, communication, right? Having great communication. It is not good enough, well, I will say no, it's not good enough to just be good at your craft. I sometimes go, oh, I wish it was, right? But these other things are important as well because people ultimately, yes, they're paying you for your amazing creative work. They're also paying you for the other things, the way that you delivered it, the great communication. So if you take ages, if you take days or even weeks to reply to an email, or you're slow in communication, or you're just, making lots of mistakes and, it doesn't look very professional, like that is going to affect the whole project negatively, even if you delivered this beautiful, absolutely incredible piece of artwork. They're going to be like, well, that person was a nightmare to work with. They never replied to my email, right? So it's actually not good enough just to be great at the artwork. It's also really important that you're great at that professional side as well. So things like communication, and communication is not always just, hey, communicating, replying to emails quickly. Sometimes it's just being honest about where things are at. If there's a delay, update them, right? Being honest about where the project is at, even when things don't go to plan. But it's also about other things like having proper proposals, having contracts in place, sending invoices, having good payment systems, right? I think we've all experienced in our own lives when we've gone to pay for something and it's hard to pay, right? How do I pay for the thing? Oh, well, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, that's kind of complicated. You've got to make things really easy, and being a professional is an important part of this as well. It's also about showing up, right? Showing up in the business, showing up for your clients as well, because you want to be of service to your client. And ultimately, you want them to have a great experience working with you. And that's, once again, experience. It's not just about the thing that you deliver, it's about the way that you deliver it and the whole experience they go through, right from when they first messaged you and said, hey, I'm interested in working with you. There's a process there, whether that's you get on a call with them, you have an email, maybe some template emails in there, whatever that process looks like, right through to, hey, you're working on the project, the delivery, the communication, and even the follow-up afterwards. Obviously when people are early stage in their business, they don't have these things perfect, and that's okay. one thing at a time. You don't need to have it perfect to work with a great client, but these are things to work on as well. So Vera, you're incredible at the professional side in your business, but we'd love to hear some of your thoughts around this side too.
Yes, I mean, you said communication, that is absolutely the key. And when you think about, when you talk about communication, that also includes the way you present your work. That also includes how are you incorporating the feedback that you are receiving from your client. It also includes the way you provide creative solutions, because sometimes, for example, I just had, I worked with an author directly on a book cover, and she didn't have experience with special printing techniques, and she wanted to do some stuff that I already knew is not going to work. So the way I explained to her how and why that may not work and may not end up looking the way she imagined it to look. So it is really important to show knowledge with exactly like with literally with the creative process from beginning to the end. So from responding to an inquiry to literally walking the client through the whole creative process, making them a part of the creative process. I think it's really important for clients to feel like they are a part of it, not just an observer or somebody who is getting the end product. They also need to have their input, and they need to know that they're being heard. They need to know that, you know, that everything is being taken into consideration. And the way I approach my business and the way I talk with my clients is like, I don't want to be the client that, because I am their client, I don't want to be the client that I don't like. So anything that I personally wouldn't like from a client, I try not to, you know, not to do those things, like not to, you know, respond a week later on an email, or not to just disregard their opinion, or not to, you know, just like everything that's doesn't seem professional in my eyes. I just know that it will, if I do the same things, that would, you know, make me look unprofessional. So I avoid to do that. And also when I just mentioned in the beginning, also how you present your work. I think that's a really important when you are sending your clients drafts, you know, the way you present them, the way in the presentations. That's why I always make presentations. In the presentation, I also put my thoughts, my you know, the reasons for certain creative decisions that I've made for certain designs and stuff like that, because I want them to understand my vision, as well as I'm trying to answer theirs. And it's always like, for you to, it's always like positioning the way for your vision to come alive. This is what I think needs to happen, or something like that around those. But it's super important to make those presentations when you're presenting your work, your stages of the work, make them a part of that process, and make sure that they always have time and opportunity to provide their feedback. That's super, super important.
I love it. You know, like that, once again, this is that professional side that so many people, they overlook, right? And it's not because they're doing it on purpose. It's they're just not noticing those things are important. So it's bringing the importance up of, hey, if you're going to run that creative business, working on that professional side as well is part of it. And yes, as we said, well, no, you're not going to be perfect sometimes, and that's okay. But you work on the stuff, you get better at it, you improve it, particularly when you're early on in your business as well. All right, we're going to jump into some questions. Just before we jump into Q&A, just a reminder again around the survey. We'd love to connect with some people. I'll pop that link in again into the chat, and it'll be in the notes as well, that we email out too. But we'd love you to click that open, even if you just open it now, those of you live, and you can fill it in afterwards, so we can get connected with you, and you know, get on some of those freebie calls with myself or Paul. Okay, this first question here. Should I wait to leave my day job before starting the business? I kind of love this one, because it's something that happens occasionally, where we talk to people who are like, hey, Logan, I've just left my day job and I want to start my business tomorrow. Can you help? And I'm like, okay, right, here we go. So, you know, it's really quite challenging to actually just quit the day job, and then go all into the business and rely on the income. Right. So you're going, okay, well, I need to replace my income. Some people might have a few months, and maybe they have some buffer or some savings or a supportive partner. But ultimately, if they're starting from the point of zero to start their business, they've got a rough road ahead of them, right? Because we know that actually building a business is going to take some time. There's several reasons why. One of them is because you're going to have to learn a bunch of stuff. You also want some experience working with some clients. You want some experience working through the failures of not working with clients and having, okay, what do I do around the invoicing? Or how do I set this thing up here? There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that just take some time, right? So our recommendation is that you build your business next to having a day job, ideally. Right, we understand everyone's situation is different, and some people are in different situations. Maybe they have young children or other focuses as well. But ideally, what you do is you build your business as much as you can whilst you don't need the income. Right, so going, hey, like that could be for 6 months, a year. We get it. We get that building a business when you've got other focuses and other priorities is really hard. Right, if you've got a full-time job or you're full-time caring for family members, suddenly you're going, hey, well, I need to build this business on the side. We're saying, yes, well, do what you can, even if that's small things every week to move forward. Because then when you go full-time on the business, you're going to already be several steps ahead. We've kind of, we're always tracking this, and we often see it tends to be 6 to 18 months for people to leave their day job from beginning to work with them. Right. So that's, often focus time. People who have a day job, it tends to be that time frame. Right. And some people, it's that, yeah, as I said, they're caring for family members, you have young children. And so we're really talking about how long to get to more of a sustainable amount of revenue in the business, right? 6 to 18 months. Now, lots of variety, lots of variation within that as well. It depends where people are at, what people's goals are, what support they have, what they're doing, of course. But it's just really about recognizing that the whole idea of like quitting the day job and then going and starting the business is actually quite risky, because suddenly you're really reliant on it. And yeah, look, we've worked with people who do this, and it's often quite hard because they often cut corners, right? So they're like, oh, I need to bring in revenue immediately, so they discount their pricing, they cut corners, they start working with clients that they wouldn't like to work with, or they're clients with red flags that they're like, oh, it's going to be a nightmare, but hey, I've got to pay my bills. So we get that trying to balance multiple things is hard, and ultimately most people can't actually have a full-time job and try and build their business for that long, right? They can actually probably only do it for 18 months, 2 years maximum, because it's hard. They are having to try and effectively work 2 jobs as well. So, that's a really important thought that I'll share with the group here as well around day jobs. You do what you can to build your business up whilst you have the security, even if it's doing that for 6 months or a year. Build it on the side as well. We love working with people who, yes, they're doing that. They have the day job and they're trying to balance these things, but there's just not that same level of fear coming up for them of, I have to do this, and they're not cutting corners. They're being smart about how they approach things as well. We've got a good question for you here, Vera. And I know you're doing this right now. How to manage multiple projects? Do you want to share your thoughts around that? Because I think this is a good one. And even people who don't have multiple projects right now, I'm sure it's a fear people have. Like, what if I end up with multiple projects? So do you want to share your thoughts around that?
Yeah. It can be a challenge, especially if they come, and they usually come. That's Murphy's Law. They will usually come all at the same time with similar deadlines. So when that happens, and that has happened to me actually this month, when literally 5 books came at the same time, I had to, well, number one is look at my schedule and make sure, look at the tasks and look at my schedule and make sure that it's doable. If it's not doable, I have to communicate back to my clients and try to spread them out and try to make sure that it fits the calendar. So that's literally number one. Sometimes, yes, it happens that I have to work on multiple projects, but that's where all those organizational skills that we just talked about come in handy. From looking at my calendar, scheduling the time, making sure that, I have system in place. When am I going to do what, and how much time each task is going to need to be done. I have also learned during, these, when this happened to me in the beginning, I also have learned to speed up my process. I have learned to identify where I used to spend too much time and try to speed up my process. But what I have also done is started offering packages to my clients. What I mean by that, because I started getting a lot of clients at the same time, I have started offering packages that would be from the lower, where I would offer just one concept, one idea per project, And for a higher fee, there would be 3 projects, because they say, yes, 3 projects is a standard, but sometimes it is literally, for me right now, not doable to do it for every single project that I get. So I give my client an opportunity to trust me that I can get the right idea with just one concept. And if they want to pay me more, then I will push myself to do 3. So it's really also about valuing your own yourself, literally valuing yourself, and pricing yourself properly, and giving the clients opportunity to choose which option they want to pay for. So normally clients would, trust me. Honestly, it seems like people trust me, and they want to, they know that I'm going to give them the right idea with just one concept, but sometimes they choose the higher package. And good me, if they do that, then I make sure that I carve out time to do that. And, because they're paying me to do that, to bring more ideas to the table before we start the project. So it's something that I've started working on recently a lot, and that has helped me either increase my revenue or decrease the scope of projects, either or, which is really good when you're working on multiple projects at the same time. And again, just having system in place, and making sure that there's no time wasters around what you need to do during the day. Having the one thing that needs to be done, eating that frog in the morning, because there's a lot of emails, a lot of back and forth when you're working with a lot of clients at the same time. And also just keeping your head clear, because sometimes didn't happen to me, but almost happened to me, that I called one client by the name of a different client. Sometimes, things can get mixed up in your head. So just make sure you have a lot of coffee before you start answering emails. And you wake up, right? So yeah, just organizational skills come in handy, and everything that we talked about today helps when you're working with multiple clients, when you're working on multiple projects, and make sure you price yourself properly, for sure.
I love it. So many gems in there and what you've shared, Vera, and so much great advice. I love what you just said at the end there, which is like also pricing right? That's part of it as well. So, if you are doing multiple projects, well, you're getting paid well to do them as well, right? If you are doing a smaller number of projects, you want to get paid higher as well. So, look, we are going to come towards the end of the webinar. What I would love everyone to do that's on here live is just to post into the chat a takeaway. What's something that you've learned or found interesting from today's webinar? So just post that in the chat. I'm going to answer one more question. Just people are posting things in the chat. This one here is a really good one, because it's basically a question around what is the thing that people tend to avoid when they're running their business, right? So avoiding. Well, okay, first of all, it's definitely the frogs. It's definitely there can be lots of different things, but the biggest thing that I see people avoiding, it's the business stuff, right? So just kind of give you some background here, is that I get talked to so many amazing creative people. Some we end up working with. And one of the things I see again and again is that people are so amazing at their craft, right? They're really incredible at their creative craft, what they could do creatively. And they can sink lots of time into that. They love it. As I said, they could spend a huge amount of hours per week doing that. But the stuff that they're avoiding and tending to avoid, it tends to be more of the business side, right? And, there's kind of an idea, which is like, hey, maybe if I'm good enough at my craft, then people will work with me and I'll have all these clients and I'll do all these things. Okay. And I can do this full time. Look, the craft's part of it. You have to be good at what you do. But the business side is usually the thing that gets in most people's way. Right? We talk to people all the time. And I sometimes say to people, I'm like, look, your craft's amazing. It's not the thing in your way. And they go, wait, what? What do you mean? I thought I need to work on that craft lots more. And I'm like, look, it's a lifelong journey. You'll keep growing. You'll keep working on it. But you are good enough right now to build a long-term sustainable business. But this business stuff, what are you doing around the marketing? And they're like, well, I don't really do that stuff. Right? It's easy to avoid those things. So yes, it's the marketing, it's some of that business management stuff, the invoicing, some of those things are part of it as well. So, just wanted to share a few things around that question, because it is the thing that people avoid as well. Amazing. I love what's been shared in the chat. So I'll just read out a few of the things here before we wrap up. So the one thing a day, there we go. Several people have mentioned that. Honestly, the one thing, it's so simple, but so powerful as well. Oh, look, multiple people. There we go. 3 people have mentioned that. Creating clear strategies for your short and long-term goals as well. Absolutely. So that goal side, if you are clear on what the goals are, what you're working towards, well, it'll help you get clear on what are the action items towards them. And you start to realize there might be a whole bunch of stuff that you're doing that is not actually working you towards your goals as well. The idea of creating a system that really works for me and the way that I like to work, the exact problem of being super creative and avoiding all the business stuff. Yeah, absolutely. It's a really common thing that people do, and it's so easy to avoid that business stuff there. And I love what you've also shared there around like creating a system that works for you, right? Even the things that we've shared today, right? Even the one thing doesn't work for everyone. Some people have different versions of that. And part of that is trying things out, testing them out, and then implementing your own version. You could do the one thing at the end of your day. You might find that's the timing that works for you. You could do the one thing once a week. Like, you can really take these concepts and work them for you, because everyone has a different personality. Everyone is in different places in the world. Everyone has slightly different businesses as well. So part of this stuff here is there's going to be things that we've shared today that you're disregarding it. Well, I'm not going to do that. Eating frogs, I hate that idea, right? Or it might be going, hey, actually, that's a great idea, and I'm going to test that, but you're going to use it in your own way as well. So, it's something we're often working on with clients too, is, how can they adapt even the things that we're helping them do, teaching them, learning as well in their way too, based on their personality. We are going to wrap things up there. It's just been so lovely, and there's been some more things popping into the chat too. I love that. Honestly, Vera, it's just such a delight. I always love running this. So we've done a couple of these now together, haven't we?
Yes, always a pleasure. I love talking with you, and I love talking about these things, and just sharing with everyone, what I've learned from you, and just from the experience. So cool.
I love it. Such a delight. Thank you everyone for joining live, and those of you that are on the recording, watching the recording as well. Lovely to connect with you all, and look forward to connecting with you all through the Instagram DMs and through emails and bits and pieces as well. And hope to speak to some of you via those freebie coaching calls as well. Take care and have a lovely day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for joining us.